Hello everyone, I'm Aditi Aggarwal, the founder of GTM Unbound, and today we have with us Shesh Rao Paplikar, the founder and CEO of BHIVE. If you've ever built something out of Bangalore, chances are you built either or worked out of BHIVE, or you know someone who has, or your partner has a collaboration with BHIVE. He's one of those rare builders who has not just seen the evolution of Indian startup ecosystem, he's been right at the center of it, shaping the very infrastructure that fuels it. From co-working to community, capital to collaboration, he's helped redefine how Indian infrastructure for co-working founders and tech ecosystem works. I've got to know Shesh more closely during a trip and a grateful friendship of last almost a decade now. A trip to his alma mater along with his beautiful wife and two beautiful kids. And let me tell you, his kids are one of the most beautiful human beings. Success isn't just about what you build, but how grounded you stay. It's not just about how big your business empire is and how well you grow, but also investing in the growth of people who are part of your team. And that truly is who Shesh is. Join me in the conversation as I'm looking forward to this. Welcome, Shesh.
Yeah, it's nice to be having this conversation.
I'm very excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we have known each other. We have had so many conversations with coffee, drinks, travel, etc. But I think this is the first time we're having this formal conversation. So excited.
The first segment is we would love to know your founder journey. You shared your journey of being from Mysore, being in the US, coming back to India to build this. Where did it begin? How did you know that this is your ikigai and you've been at it?
I think I didn't consciously look at Ikigai, but I think it ultimately, when I was reading that book, I kind of felt somewhere that's what I pursued. So back in the days, I mean, see, ultimately the entrepreneurial journey for me, in my own mind, starts probably when I was like doing my engineering, is when I started realizing that entrepreneurship is where I want to head. And the people who were most inspiring for me, like say Narayan Murthy and Dhirubhai Ambani, these were some of the folks I was looking up to. You know, I'm talking about when I was doing engineering from 99 to 2003. And I felt, yeah, these are the people who have done something. And I know, and especially Dhirubhai Ambani were like super inspirational. I used to read so many things about him. And back in those days, I think somebody who's come from a village and having done that, built such a big empire. And you see, even today, I'm talking 20 years back, even today, their empire is like even bigger, way bigger. I think that's the direction I wanted to go. But coming from like a middle class background where my parents were more into education, my mother was a school teacher, my father used to work in university. And so essentially, they wouldn't have really encouraged. I mean, in fact, they almost like said, like, that's not something you should take. That's not for us.
The money is good, especially the money you make in New York is very good.
So I had attempted, back in 2003 in entrepreneurship stint I had, and in fact I lost money. And my mom told me, you know what, I had told it. So then after that I had taken a call that I need to really get into corporate journey. First of all, I had to pay debt. I started my career honestly with a loss, so I had to pay back some of my relatives from whom I had borrowed to do entrepreneurship. But I knew that, let me kind of pay that back and let me have certain experience working in the corporate world. I realized that I was too young and there were so many mistakes I was making. And somewhere I had this self-awareness or a sense where I thought that my lack of experience is also a problem. My lack of connections, experience, I don't know right mentors. And so I like to read books, etc. So I could relate that, hey, you know what, I'm lacking it. I don't even come from business family. So for me, I knew that that's not the time where I can pursue. Even though I would have wanted to do one more thing. And I said, let me travel, let me make money, let me see the world. And I think that was a great decision at that point in time. So of course I had a great degree. I studied in NIT Surathkal. So I knew that my degree is going to help me get the right job. So I started, of course, I studied computers. So I worked as a software engineer in product side, etc. So my journey took me to US. So, almost 2003 I passed out. Then 3 years I worked in Bangalore, 8 years in US. somewhere there I knew, I think that it's time to get back to entrepreneurship. I knew that, hey, I've saved some money and I've kind of built some experience. I've done some leadership work. I've seen how corporate works. I've seen how money works. People earn money. How do you spend? I've seen US, traveled. So I'm like, compared to 2003, I felt like after so many years, now I'm better prepared. So I said, hey, now I'm like 32. If I keep waiting, someday I'll cross 40, and you know what, again, getting into entrepreneurship is going to get difficult. So I think I had that realization that you can't keep waiting, right? If you cross 40, 45, then I've seen people, they keep saying I'll do entrepreneurship, then they'll end up crossing a certain age where they actually cannot do now. Especially first time entrepreneurship. So repeat entrepreneurship is one thing, right? It was almost like first time for me, because my first stint was small and didn't work out. So jumping in again was a big deal, and I knew that I did a lot of calculations that if things don't work out, I'm still young, I can still like make it back, right? I think so. I think 30s is a good time. I think it's a good time to take that risk. If things don't work, and you have certain 30 is a time. In 30s you have some experience, you're not like in 20s, so some level of maturity is there. Hopefully you've got saved some money also, and you're at a stage where you can try, and things don't work, you can get back, etc. Right? So I think that was the thought process. I think first decision was, would you do entrepreneurship in US or would you go back to India? So these are the two countries you understand well. So these are the two countries honestly I also know. I only lived in these two countries. While I've traveled to other countries, actual living, working, I've only done in these two countries.
Yeah, but here you have like an entourage of 1,000 people working for you, and US life is different. So how did you and Avanti, of course, I mean, a lot of compliments to your wife, because I don't think entrepreneurship happens just by yourself. You have 2 kids. I'm sure there has been a great deal of work and support with her. So how was that? How did you design it with your wife? Coming back from New York, settling in, and then, hey, the truth bomb, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, see, I think that part was when you are married and you have one more person to think about, right? I think these are major decisions, moving countries. First time when I went to US, at that time I was a bachelor. So see, that's very different. You can take whatever decisions, right, at that time. Now, like moving back to India, now I have to decide for a family. I think that was really tough. Tough in the sense it's a tough decision, but once I made it, we made it fast. I had to think a lot. And for me, I think in my mind, it was clear that if I want to be an entrepreneur, India is where, my savings, so whatever dollar savings I had made meant really honestly nothing in US. But that meant a lot more for India, right, when you convert it. So I said, yeah, India mein na, I have a longer rope, because that savings can take me much further. I felt there was room to maneuver was very less when you don't have a very perceived citizen, right? And you don't have buffer money, right? I knew that I'll try to do something, didn't work out, you might end up going back to corporate, yeah, visa, yes. I said, yeah, jhanjat nahi chahiye. And then I think the other thing I felt was, I grew up in India, so that's why I understand India better. And even in US, to be very honest, see what happens, there are so many Indians in US, right? A lot of times we end up spending more time with Indians only there also. Right? Especially because we grew up here. See, somebody who grew up in US is a very different story, because see, wahan baith ke I was not watching baseball, I was still watching cricket only. Yeah. Right, Indian cricket.
I still keep looking for the dosas and yeah, this is
so basically I knew that the Indians is what I understand. See, you need to do something, you need to understand your customer. So I understand Indians. And then I think the other thing I want to leverage was the fact that, hey, you grew up in India through 80s and 90s. And then you are, especially when I went to US, I think first time I went was in 2006, US felt like a world apart. I saw Walmart, I saw McDonald's, none of these things were there in India, right? Those nice roads, those nice cars, and, so many flights, so easy to take. India, उस time अपना flights up नहीं रहता.
You the earth, because I feel infrastructure is still different. It's improving every day. But do you miss that life, the high life?
I don't know if I am. I think there is something interesting. I think I really am glad that I experienced it. So at a time when I was looking to experience things, I experienced it. Today, I don't know if I think I'm okay to once in a while travel abroad, enjoy see those things. But to be somehow, for whatever reason, I think my wife misses that more. I'll be very honest. She did a PhD there, so she actually studied there. So and she is from research background. And what I've seen is after coming back to India, somebody who's in research, I think US, Europe, a lot of these countries tend to have a better
Very evolved.
in the be it university system, grant system. I think India is honestly nowhere there when it comes to research. So purely for research people, India is not good. So that way, I think for her career, it was a bit of a compromise from research perspective. But now she runs her own clinic. She's also kind of an entrepreneur. She has a clinic, a speech clinic. So that's one part. But otherwise, yes, I think. I think for me, I'm a workaholic. So I think a lot of my mind share is occupied by that. So I think since BHIVE has grown well, done reasonably well, I think things. So I think if I really compare my India life today versus being a corporate employee there, I think this is a big step up, right? And I think there are a lot of things about India. You can have a chauffeur here. A lot of people can take care of various things, so that of course I utilize that time to focus on higher productivity things, right? The best part for me was the learning I could do from there, and what can we bring that back, including co-working. I saw it working there, and I knew what it means if we can make it happen here.
Where did you go? Like which co-working space for you?
I was in New York, right? I lived so many years in New York, and the strange coincidence is that unlike many other startups, that WeWork happens to be a New York-based company, not a Silicon Valley company. It was actually a New York company, and in fact, the WeWork headquarters was right next door to where we used to live. Actually next building. In downtown. At that time, they were on Fulton Street, and we were like right next to it. And I think, and otherwise, I would say that co-working had become a phenomenon in New York even before WeWork kind of took off. It's become like a culture at that time. A lot of co-working spaces, startups. Even though New York is not as much known as Silicon Valley for startup, but New York is filled with entrepreneurs. I would always advocate people who are doing business to be present in happening place, meet people, know what's happening. And I think in a world without co-working space, if you imagine a world like, say, even in India, let's say 10 years back, where there were no co-working spaces, understanding of the market wouldn't have been this easy. People had to go and attend some event, and you have to put extra effort, go through traffic. So while today also people do those events, naturally also today, imagine, see, this is a 3,000 seater property. People can run into others, and so many events happen right here. I think co-working spaces contribute a lot to that ecosystem as an industry. I'm not talking only would be the co-working space industry itself contributes.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was already happening in New York. So that's the learning I brought here.
It's so interesting that every time I think about infrastructure, I feel there's this, like a turn off moment, because India, it's so bureaucratic, and you really need those connections. So what made you confident about investing your whole life into infrastructure building? Of course, this is a different kind.
See, when it comes to investing my life onto that infrastructure as a domain, it was not very planned. Very interestingly, the first BHIVE that came up in Koramangala, I was not even looking to do a long-term large co-working business, to be honest. I did that as a bit of a lifestyle project for myself. So what happened was I was looking to, so I did come back to India thinking I'm going to do a co-working space, by the way. I came from a tech background. I was looking to do something in tech. And in fact, we even registered a company which was called Tusker Data Labs, which was actually in data science, because I, as a software engineer, when I worked in Bloomberg, etc., I was in data science. Today, AI, so there is to be earlier version of that called, we used to call it more as machine learning, etc. So I was actually more in machine learning.
Is it still alive, the company?
So technically, Tusker Data Lab, that name I took to this company, because BR's official name is Tusker Workspace. So I was trying to do something in tech, and I was looking for a co-working space. So what happened was I realized that Bangalore doesn't have a real professionally run co-working space. Of course, there were some business centers. There were some so-called co-working spaces. Then I realized they were mostly somebody's office where they had 10 extra seats. They used to call it co-working space. So nobody had done professionally run co-working space that can become big. I said, you know what, and all these aspects, right? I went from a user's perspective. Hey, is there a space where a lot of events are happening? Startup founders are there, which works 24/7. You know, pricing is price for startups. I kind of like, hey, this doesn't exist. Let me create one for myself.
We all know a lot of infrastructure spaces and businesses, but the fintech aspect is extremely new for me. The other day I met somebody and he's like, can you suggest something extremely interesting in India to invest in? And I would love to understand a little bit about that.
See, the fintech side is, see, BHIVE has today evolved to become a group. So we also have a fintech entity called BHIVE Capital, which is a US headquartered company. A lot of times, in pandemic, we all were sitting at home for a while, right? There were lockdowns. And so in a way, I think that gave a lot more opportunity to sit and think, which I might have otherwise not done, which may be true for many people who are always like on the treadmill, right? Every day you're up and running. Now you're forced to sit. Now see, you're not going to sit. You're going to think. You're going to see what's happening. I think that gave me that perspective that, hey, you know what? There are so many of these people with money to invest. People love real estate, but they don't have a real guide, and even the opportunity exists. A lot of commercial real estate opportunities I realize is being consumed primarily by super wealthy people.
Let's say, like a fraction part of your opportunity that I could still own a piece of it, and if I belong to a category of HNI, then this is an extremely amazing opportunity to start with.
Definitely. I think now, Indian government has formalized this towards SM REITs. So we are really, I think it has evolved more towards, I think we understand a couple of different structures like AIF and SM REITs. A lot of these structures are there, which we are kind of utilizing to give right access to people into commercial buildings. Now, I think, commercial real estate gives much higher returns than residential real estate, and as you know, BHIVE is actually into commercial real estate, right? So we are taking over large properties and making them into co-working space.
So how many of them are there? I know this is you have the largest.
Our HSR is the world's largest co-working space. Speedway is a co-working, one of the properties,
is that
right?
8,000.
That's an 8,000 seater. Actually, there is no other. I know that there's a co-working space in Paris, in France. I think in Paris, they used to call it as the largest in the world. You know what? That is less than 4,000 seats, and this is like double of that.
And is it almost always occupied, like 60-70%, which is like average, right? Industry average.
See, industry is, I think a lot of people are able to do 80 to 90, and we are at 80% plus there.
Oh, wow.
In fact, even though it's 8,000 seater, like I was talking to somebody, my team was saying even a 200 seater single blocks we don't have now. Whatever we have a little bit available is also spread across. And that property is like seeing a lot of things. It has got...
HSR is the new startup hub.
Yes, I think, we are one of the early people to identify HSR and started betting on HSR because Koramangala had a lot of constraints. Koramangala was the original startup hub, and honestly, even when a Wipro or Infosys was startup, if you can say, in 80s, they actually were in Koramangala. And I think natural evolution went to, because Koramangala started running out of space. HSR is a much better design layout. The entire BD has designed it much better because
a lot of housing opportunities for entrepreneurs, pocket friendly.
And as you see, I think we actually have like 14 properties in HSR.
Oh wow! So how many total?
So we today have 27 properties, 26 in Bangalore, 1 in BKC.
And do you have any international partnerships?
So there are partnerships we have done, in Silicon Valley with some accelerators, where, and see one, I think they have to kind of take off here, kind of put that attempt. But I wouldn't say it has reached a thriving stage, but I think very recently what has happened is one of our investors, Expert Dojo, is betting big on India. They had a major event 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
They had invested us in a couple of years back. Some very interesting coincidence. They have decided to go big on India. They are already equity holders in BHIVE. I think they're kind of putting up almost like $100 million kind of fund for India.
Oh wow, yeah, I was at a panel with their
One of the partners is moving
yeah.
to Bangalore, so I expect that to become big
The
because
conversation was about Indian startup ecosystem versus US. Everybody on being Indian were talking about US and Silicon Valley and going big, and the gentleman changed the whole conversation. He's like, "Hey, why are we even talking about US?" You know, so that was really interesting. Every founder has a brutal 0 to 1 moment. What was yours?
I mean, if I would look at the brutal moment, there was a time, we started in 2014. We had a good run, better than what I was expecting originally. We were able to raise VC money. We were able to do a lot of things. So things were always working well. So I think somewhere also, I mean, I was not as experienced as today. So was going with the flow, and I think somewhere there was a situation where there were certain VC commitments, and I think I ended up making certain decisions also assuming those commitments are going to really convert. And I think then you, as you know, right? I mean, you're in the ecosystem for a while. Market changes, so many things keep happening. Some new investments may happen to competitors. So many landscape things change, and somewhere that investment didn't convert. And critical decisions we had made, especially we had signed up a large property. Whatever money we had given to deposit, there was we needed that new money to actually do the interior, so we didn't have money to do interiors. We were sitting in an empty building which is not monetizable, but which is costing monthly rent. It has taken away all my deposit. I think suddenly I was caught in a situation where I'm staring at the empty building and monthly rent, and that was the biggest building of that time. So that was our fifth property and the biggest property. Then what happened, suddenly we made a very big bet, and whose rent was like really high for that time. See, today it looks much smaller at the current size. I think suddenly I realized that so many different tactical moves I was making, and suddenly you're caught off guard.
Yeah.
I think because what happens when you're lost in the woods, you keep making tactical decisions. Once in a while, it's important to come out of the woods and look at your own company from like a bird's eye view. Yeah, what can go wrong. Today, I think I'm more experienced. I think we are staring at potential like bankruptcy of the company, and I think the way we were able to come out of that is what made us. Ultimately, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? And that was almost a kill. We were almost going to die, and I think surviving through that has defined us. And so, what was the biggest challenge that we faced? Ultimately, was the biggest opportunity because we made it through it, and today we are stronger because of it. Even when pandemic happened, I was like, yeah, we could survive that. The pandemic, yeah, and I was always confident we can put the pandemic, and we were able to.
What was about the mindset? A lot of founders talk about pain, talk about these, bankruptcy moments close to closure of the company. What was that mindset that really helped you? Because at the end of the day, the differentiation between a founder to a successful founder is about the mindset.
One of the biggest difference of holding a corporate job versus being a founder, or holding a job versus being a founder, is the buck stops at you, right? When you're a founder, the amount of pressure that can build in when things don't go right. Right, and you can't jump the ship like a corporate employee. Things are not working well, job change kar lera. You don't have that option. There's so much commitments are there, and I think even in India, a lot of times things can become personally liable as well. Compared to a US law, right? Indian law might be much more difficult sometimes for entrepreneurs.
It's easy to start a company, but to close a company in India is...
US की तरह यार ये बंद कर लिया, ये शुरू कर लिया, ये बंद कर लिया. It doesn't work like that in India, right? India still was little traditional in that sense, and I think so. The pressure when things are not working well, pressure on founder can be very high, and I think that can, unfortunately, what can happen is the founder is the person who has to act to come out of things. Sometimes, if you end up getting crippled in that, it can be tough. So I think what's important to remember is that you can't stop the action, right? You can't, if by sitting, things don't get solved. So I think if we keep acting, I think solutions always come up. And I think these kind of situations, a lot of times people would have faced. And I would always say that it's good to face these difficult moments early on in entrepreneurial journey. And when you're smaller, and you have to figure your way to work through them and grow. And then the risk management strategy becomes better. Then you always know this can always happen anytime. See, this moment even you have seen big companies fall. So that's something people have to remember. यार ये कभी भी हो सकता है. Right?
Did you ever think during the pandemic that you should shut the business?
I would very interestingly. I think I was always confident that we will be able to pull through. I'd done a lot of math around things, and I don't know, I was being over optimistic because if you kind of see, we were the ones who started signing up buildings before any other competitors. We grew. We have actually grown like from 2,500 seats to close to 30,000 seats now. We have grown from pandemic to now. So we went quite aggressive. See, there were times when I would say, while we have not planned to shut down, etc., I think there were proposals where some other similar size companies were saying, hey, should we all merge? Should one or two companies merge and become stronger so that fundraising becomes easier? So these kind of conversations were there, which we were thinking, does it make sense? Hey, you know what? Because see, money, we knew that money is required to grow. Otherwise, see, we were a profitable company, but then you would always stay small and be there. I knew that I didn't come to entrepreneurship to do that. I didn't come to do a small profitable business. My goal was to do something bigger. So I think, and funding was very tough. After pandemic, it would look like, yeah, will somebody ever fund a co-working business? Right? That's how people were thinking at that time. So I think that's what I would have considered. Never ever thought of shutdown. I always knew that things will grow, and I think also because I've always been very optimistic about Indian economy, at least in current times. I would generally always say that India, if you look at India's demography, India's current per capita is so low, it can only go higher, right? And there's so much technology, so much evolution happening.
I want to double click on this. I've myself been a bureaucrat, done international trade for a foreign government. I've seen you looking at political relationships very differently. Just like you said, optimistically. Who doesn't believe in India as an opportunity today? But a lot of it is also at surface level in terms of our understanding. Help me and the audience here understand a little deeper. How did you feel confident about navigating? If you want to run a big business, just like you said, not a small one, but a large business in India as an opportunity, how were you confident to navigate the bureaucratic channel, work amidst the politicians? Ultimately, if you want to be really big, you are friends in and around the ecosystem. So startup is just your wire, but a lot exists, and we are also, I think IPO is in the near future, at least what I sense from the growth. I'm sure you must be thinking. So what made you confident about this bureaucratic political?
So I think it's a couple of things here. One is, like I was previously saying, I didn't necessarily kind of decide like straight away that, hey, you know what, I'm going to be in infrastructure lifelong. It kind of originally started as a lifestyle, and it worked well, and naturally it grew. And then I'm like, yeah, and then I think I not realized I got committed to something in infrastructure. And then once I'm in it, then I had to find a way forward. And of course, as you know, India has its own bureaucratic hurdles, and I think most countries have. India probably has it higher than many other developed countries. And real estate is given the India's population, size of the population, and also the density, both are high, right? And India is the most populous country in the world today. One thing we have been lucky is we are more into leasing business. We are not being a builder. Like, we are not being a real estate developer like a lot of these groups.
You think that business is tougher?
That business, what I would say is that it is little different. You need to deal a lot more with bureaucrats than I would do. Let's say I would compare my leasing business versus that, because lands in India is very complicated. Yeah. Somebody was saying, land was perfectly clear.
Forget about land, the pin code system in India is still not clear.
So I think that's why it makes it very difficult to be an actual builder, especially from a bureaucracy and all of that. For me, it's not been as difficult, but I'm still connected. Like, what I realized is I'm already in this business for more than 10 years. And it's important that we have built our own connections, right? I think anybody who's big in mining or, look at petroleum, look at real estate, look at anything, it needs connection. I think certain stage, even tech companies, etc., they are like, look at Elon Musk, he's like so connected, right? So connections are
I want to
important.
ask a candid question here. When you talk about real estate in India, the first thought which comes is like, you have a family, you don't come from a business background, you've still been able to build so much, but at the end of the day, you have a beautiful family, and the thought of goons and bureaucracy and the the unsafe element around building a real estate empire, did you ever get scared? Did you ever have one of those weak moments wherein you want to rethink? A lot of people talk about the opportunity, but seldom do people want to share that, hey, I had this moment and I thought, let me take a step back.
I mean, I would say, not to that extent, but one situation could have been, in the worst situation of pandemic, right? When everything was shut and there was no cash flow, right? Our customers were not paying, there was like not really much bank balance, and technically you have to pay your landlords, etc. So there were times when I thought, now if the clients don't pay and we have to pay, but then, all our assets are locked in this building, so we can't afford to now be thrown out,
And you can't sell it also.
right? And so those times I kind of thought, to an extent, yeah, is there a challenge because you have so many properties, so many landlords you're dealing with? Could there be some challenges some of the landlords will pose? Thought has come to my mind, but I think as time went, I never kept shut. I always kept talking to my landlords, and they were all very supportive.
So our open communication and trust.
It really helped, and I guess somewhere we did a decent job of selecting the right landlords, because we have only done business so far in Bangalore, right? And we are very careful about how we go about finding the landlords. And a lot of times it's not about the right property. If we don't like the landlord, we kind of back off. For us, going with the right landlord is also very critical because it's a long-term relationship. I think those strategies help me. So that's why I think it's not been. The only thing is sometimes I may think, will we eventually become a developer, etc. And then I know that that's a tougher area.
So relationship versus opportunity deal.
Relationship versus
a deal, like you have a situation wherein you have a very hot deal in hand, one hand, and the other hand is a beautiful human, and you think that relationship.
One is that I think long-term relationship is very critical. I always believe that the decision should be made on a long-term returns rather than on short-term. So many times you have let go of great deals with short-term benefits to ensure that the long-term is taken care, and it needs a lot of conviction. Like a landlord is an example, right? Let's say there is a deal in a property where a client is very specific. Take this property, I'm going to take like so many seats for sure. Now the landlord is not working out for us. It looks like, hey, short term and a deal to guaranteed heavy. But in the long run, I know that, eventually this client will leave, etc. Then I'm stuck with this landlord and a relationship which we may not be comfortable with. And I think that's how I would go with the decision that the relationships are important. And I think
sometimes they do come at a cost of a good deal.
I think I would put, I think the objective is what are we looking at, right? If I was trying to build something short term and sell out and exit, we may make a lot of decisions that are immediate money. But you are trying to build something long term, that comfort should be there. Scalable long term organizations to build, I think building stable relationships are important because, see, at scale, right, you're building a lot of relationships, right? The number of landlords you deal with today is way higher. Now, and even a small percentage of that starts becoming trouble. It's very hard to scale.
They're your real business partners at the end of the day, your
Yes.
Sort of your colleagues that you put up the business with. Amazing. Behind events are buzzing, pitch nights, mixers, demo days. Was it always part of the plan, or you are thinking of this now as you seem to evolve this idea? Because it is just amazing how this entire ecosystem play I see. Is this your GTM strategy for BHIVE?
I think if I look back into how all this started, one is you could look at it as GTM as well, but also I think the purpose behind starting BHIVE was also about creating that ecosystem. Like I said, what I really could see in New York back in the days, with the Portuguese system having evolved there, I wanted to bring that missing element. So there's a bit of a passion also involved in creating that co-working space, which is buzzing. A lot of things are happening. People are able to get into startup events, meet other founders, meet other key people. So I think I was a little bit more purpose driven initially. And somewhere I knew that these things would also make BHIVE more famous and lead to sales. But I think the purpose was kind of coming up more originally. But I think and I think both are important. I think having vibrant place is very critical, and that's why we try to make it buzzing. We kind of invest on it. In fact, it kind of sometimes costs, and sometimes we also wonder, does it have a direct benefit? Because many of our competitors, they build large managed office business without really looking at any of these things. They have done fairly well. So co-working sometimes has a lot more effort than the returns than some of the things I'm saying, right, that a couple of other large players have done. Yeah. So we have kind of seen it also. It can be done that way also. But I think if you look back into our purpose, for us, there is a larger purpose also we're looking at, and there's a differentiation aspect. And I think many times, I think for me, it's I think that when you wake up and you come to work, you should look at, like, it's not just about money, right? There is something more than that. I think that's something important.
This segment, I want to talk about growth loops and your community building spirit at scale. Not just square footage, but influence, right? Do you see BHIVE as a GTM engine for the founders in your spaces? You're an entrepreneur. The space is beautiful. How do you see that? Have you noticed any specific GTM playbooks, like event-led or product-led, as an entrepreneur? And which one are you bullish on?
As far as GTM is concerned, I think a lot of things we do is more, we kind of don't want to kind of get in, and we're not an accelerator who will go and sit with them and say, yeah, tumhe ye karna hai. I think, but rather we would give an infrastructure and an ecosystem which is conducive for their growth, right, from many different aspects. What I would really say is that, see, at the price points we have there, it makes a lot of sense to be in a co-working space.
But why not an accelerator? You have everything in play here. You have a fantastic infrastructure. You have the buyers, the Saro ecosystem. I think in the universe, the only element is investors, and so why not? And is this a strategic call?
I think one is that accelerators, I think if you look at the vision, mission, and purpose, they are actually different. Ultimate model for accelerators is find companies where we can invest in. They're not making money with real estate, right? For us, so I think there is a difference. But see, they're kind of very much open to have accelerators based out of BHIVE, where there can be some amount of partnerships. And Ravindra, who was one of the founding team members, he runs startup relations division at BHIVE. We are very much open to partner, have accelerators, and I think accelerators should be headed by somebody who has a strong purpose towards that accelerator, and that needs a completely different mindset. Now you see, the most successful accelerator in the world is Y Combinator. It inspired probably 1,000 more accelerators. Right?
That's a cult. You are in the valley, and if you're a YC founder, the community is like everything, I think.
And somebody like you can probably build a mini Y Combinator. Would love to always partner, because that needs that mindset. See, the ones who are running that accelerator, the thought process is very different. How do I find these companies? How can I help? What is the gap? I think they built different things. I would love to always partner, but it has to be decoupled in a certain way, and it has to have its own purpose, its own budgeting, its own KRAs, KPIs, etc. So I think it's probably, I would expect that we'll find some smart people who would partner with us and kind of do their stuff at BHIVE.
Do you have these kind of partnerships, or people in the tech world have advisory boards who bring in business, who bring in partnerships, and this is in Silicon Valley, a second time, third time founder sold his two companies, now has some time in hand, very very conveniently, if he can add a lot of value, can sign a small contract and get on the advisory board to help business scale. Do you see that in your business? Like, have you used that opportunity? That's one of the GTM engines I am seeing in the
I think getting
cross-border.
the right advisors, right?
Yes. Someone who has experienced it, possibly through his own professional journey or his own company, and now can, help. Uh, you sort of call these people unhireable, or, but they're very
Because
strategic.
they could be very expensive, or for a startup, they may not be able to hire them on a pay.
Yeah.
I think,
Or just that they are not available full time, and they want to
yes,
explore different things. Like after IPO, you might not go into a decade later, just want to keep grinding from morning 8 to, evening 9, 10 o'clock. I always see you working.
I think I will always be working, but yes, I think I mean, if I would give my thought, see, we have our own set of advisors with equity, etc., which we have got at a certain early stage. Then I think today we're at a stage where we need some support. I think, see, we have cash flow, we have growth, so we use our own capital to get the right people to support us. But if the question is around, is that a good strategy for startups? I think it is yes, but it is also tricky because I think not every time people are able to get it right. They may get somebody as an advisor, define certain terms, and a lot of times they may end up not being able to utilize or leverage that. And that also happens because, see, there are a lot of uncertainties that startup are in, right? So it's a little tricky, I would say. An experienced person can do that better. I would say rather than very young founders, somebody was a founder who was already experienced, exactly as a GTM what to be, right? There may be gaps, right? Somebody is trying to do something to, like you gave example, if somebody is trying to do something for the US market, they don't have US market experience, but they need to how to find that right person, how to set the expectations right. There can be a lot of mismatch in expectations. Hey, this is the deliverable, this is the expectation, this is the
A lot of
ROI.
founders don't go so deep in thinking and setting those expectations right from the front.
Then they don't know, they have not set the expectation, but they've given off the stake, and then ROI doesn't come. So it has to be done right, and somebody like you can probably help people do it right. If done right, I think that's a great hack.
Have you ever thought of BHIVE becoming a distribution layer for, let's say, AI and SaaS tools? Founders are sitting here. This is this is beautiful. I think one of the most amazing co-working spaces I have seen. Do you ever see, like, in your, passing by them, and you see the energy that BHIVE could become a distribution layer, a marketplace for these AI tools?
I think what we are evolving is, see, one is there's a lot of work going on BH's own app. We already have launched our app, which is working for day pass, etc. But a lot more features are coming in where we'll start fostering a lot of communities as well. And there's a lot of requests from our own customers that they need a founders community, they need AI community, they may need a SaaS community of people who are writing BHIVE, right? Because people who are BHIVE members are already kind of authenticated in a certain way, right? They are like genuine people. And I think a lot of free groups out there, I think that's a challenge. So I think...
and it's so tough to build a community. I mean, I've been building one, and it's a very, very hard and thankless job. But the idea is, like, how do you pass that, that bump and come into after a couple of years, become the center of opportunities of people, epicenter of value that you start.
And that's why we want to focus more on those communities and people. I think in more as a passive, if we do, I think people will be able to catch up with you and figure out their own growth. But if I want to kind of monetize, build a marketplace, then that needs a lot of thought process. And I don't know if today is the scale, today we are, like I said, 29,000 seats, but things can change, I really believe that, through our IPO, etc., there's a lot more capital that will flow in. and we will have significantly more presence. It's a matter of time we'll hit 100,000 seats. I think somewhere, I think with scale, a lot of these things will become more doable. I think right now, I think fostering active communities is one of the goals we are pursuing right now, because which is both physical infrastructure, which BHIVE is there, along with an active community of real authenticated members, and but will eventually evolve towards a lot of other things.
Lovely. I remember this time when I, boasted you in Draper Hero City, and I've always seen in the last 8-9 years, Tim Draper from his office comes into the Hero City, and then startup founders would just take an opportunity to start pitching him. I've seen people like founders pitching him at the door as well, and I know of a founder who got funded like that. Has it happened to you as well? And how many startups have you really invested in from your own?
Definitely, a lot of startups do reach out to me for investments. I think I have invested in a couple of startups. One is I don't have a lot of mind share, so that's why I've kind of stayed back from evaluating and investing in startups. Other thing is, honestly, like I don't sit on a lot of liquidity, because I've never ever sold any shares of BHIVE, and not drawn like a lot of money. So I think through initial years, I was actually drawing less than my monthly actual expense. I was always burning my own money. Now that the size we have come to, there's so many activities that happen secondary within this. Some people want to exit sometimes, some new people want to come in, and and some of our own investment opportunities, like we also have participated, me and my wife, into BHIVE only.
Lovely.
So I think
that says a lot about the opportunity. Before I close this segment, I want to ask you this one last question about when you talk to founders today and you host so many of them, this Gen Z and Alpha, is this, brings in this amazing transactional energy. You get work done, and that is how they are driven. And they don't want to talk about before and after a lot. Do founders really care about the experience you're trying to incubate here? This being a premium facility with so many events, and these are obviously all kinds of investments from your end. Do you think founders really care about the experience?
I think there are a lot of founders who do care. I think at this stage, I think we don't have perfect statistics. These are areas we're working on to really, I think with the acquisition of, we did it acqui-hire of a tech company, right? So I think a lot of analytics and data we're working on as a separate matter. So I don't have perfect analytics and data what percentage people like, but I do know that there are a lot of founders for whom it matters. And especially very interestingly, there's a lot of smaller companies, smaller startups, sometimes people who are one or two people also, right? They are actually much smaller percentage of our revenue, to be very honest. But sometimes that's a question. Hey, are you doing so many things for those who are actually a small percent of your revenue, right? And I think as part of my purpose, I would honestly say all my small customers put together are probably smaller than my one single biggest customer. Also, by the way, so that's the difference that kind of exists. But still we do things because there are people for whom it matters. And I think even in the larger customers, it may not be the founders, etc., but there will be somebody or other in those companies, like unko fayda hota hai, right? There may be some key people, they want to see what's happening in ecosystem. So I think a lot of it's not only about founders. Every member is important. So if there is 100 people company, founder is also important. Their other people are also important, right? So they may get some learning, which may again go and contribute back to that company, or they are actually in a happy workplace because they're coming to work. I honestly not a super big proponent of work from home. I feel you should have inspirational office. People come, meet people, see what's happening. You're kind of in a work mode, and I really want to. I believe that office should naturally attract people. Even if
what does the statistics say? I say they say hybrid. I don't know. I
believe in hybrid. I think hybrid is useful. I think a lot of times permanent work from home, I think sometimes can disconnect people a lot.
Sure.
I think it's important to come, meet, see what's happening, right? Why do you go to US, right? You want to physically be there. meet people, do things, right? You come and work here in Church Street, meet people, go to HSR, go to Kormangla. I think that makes a lot of difference. And I think for us, creating a lot of these buzzes also creates even more reason for people to be, hey, man, it makes sense to come here.
I I see this as a place where you curate energy, and I think if a working space can attempt at curating energy for founders, which is with growth and positive momentum, that's where success is. Then there is no looking back. But what was one superpower that really helped you for going this big and global? One superpower of yours.
Tenacity might be something that, uh, if I look back, has worked well, that I've just stuck on. I've kind of refused to die, and just kept going, even at times when things have, yeah, sometimes it might have looked very rational to continue, but I think I've always kind of stay put, and now I've now realized, if you fight hard, you stay put, waves will come.
Did your wife ever, Avanti, ever discourage you when the going got really, really tough? That, there comes a time when you have to take those calls, and then sometimes the call is about shutting shop.
Luckily, I think it didn't. I think she has always been very supportive for me to do whatever. I think she's somebody who's very supportive, who will go with the flow. She will read me, and if there was a time where I had to say, "Hey, you know what? I want to shut down," she would have supported that. I think she goes by what I want; it supports it.
Oh, that's very lucky to have in a partner to align on, your dream. And it takes a village, right, to build such a business empire.
Yes.
Global mindset, going big. Which investor really, one investor that really was part of your journey that you feel grateful for, and that you feel that, hey, they really stuck by me? It could be a VC, it could be a very small investor, but there are few people and few companies who build along with you.
I mean, see, I think the most important investment we had was the Bloom Ventures. They
Of course, Sanjay, Karthik, Gautam, everybody is, Arpit, everyone is.
Yeah, I think, and we work a lot with Ashish. Of course, originally it was Karthik who led the investment. I think through so many years, I think one thing that really stands out is, of course, it was slightly random. It's not like we chose Bloom or others. It just happened. And now I think when I look back, I realize we are so lucky, because when now I have a lot more understanding of the VC ecosystem, investment world, met so many different founders, or met so many different VC firms, right, partners, etc., and also know so many stories from other founders and how things have gone in their board, etc. I think we are extremely lucky that I think Bloom is actually an exception within the ecosystem in how founder friendly they are, and I think they believe in win-win, and I think honestly, I think this is like, I can now tell from real 10 years experience that we were very lucky that they are our key investors.
I had definitely a special place for and a lot of respect for the team that they have built. We're coming to the rapid fire round.
I'm always scared of rapid fire. I keep watching Karan Johar do that. My wife loves Karan Johar's rapid fire.
I promise she's going to love this one as well. Co-working or community?
Community.
Wow, I didn't expect that. In your US.
India.
First startup memory.
I mean, rapid fire. So, I mean, I did entrepreneurship, right? It was about my first entrepreneurship going bust. So, and as I think.
It's a big bust. I mean, getting busted out.
Money, but I was still able to recover.
Underrated founder trait.
I think humility may be kind of sometimes underrated, but I think yeah, I would say of course people have to go by their character. Somebody who's not humble cannot act like humble, but I think humility and ability to connect to people, across all segment, from employees to everybody, is very important.
Last book you loved.
I just finished yesterday. I finished the book *Sapiens*, and it's really amazing. Gives a bird's eye view of humanity or where you're headed, etc. It's really amazing.
5 a.m. or 11 p.m. hustle?
It's very strange, I sleep after 11 p.m. I wake up closer to 5 a.m. I think if you want me to choose, the right thing is 5 a.m.
But what do you do?
I work out, I wear hoop, I run, swim, I do stuff. I think that's the right way to start the day, and I think the day goes well.
First salary?
When I got a real salary, my first job was in Infosys, after I kind of did my entrepreneurship, lost money, so to recover, then I had to join my Infosys job. I think first salary was really something, you never, through your life, that first salary is, you're like, okay, really somebody paid me.
And that somebody is Narayan Murthy. So that is even more special, right?
Yes.
Favorite BHIVE location?
I think where we are, Church Street, Church Street is like the most happy place all the time, 24/7.
I think your HSR team is not like this.
I actually think a lot of startup guys should work one day a week or something out of Church Street, I think it's a very...
And this is far for you, so are you able to work holidays a week from here?
Good. Yeah, I leave early from home. I leave late from here, so actually it's kind of a day for me.
First mentor?
First mentor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, much before I got into entrepreneurship, I think one of my father's friend used to really mentor me, at least through my student life. And I think, very unfortunately, in fact, he passed away last month. But I think I learned a lot of things about discipline, self-discipline, and how, putting that hard work and consistency can make like big difference. I think, of course, your parents are mentors, but I'm assuming you're leaving that aside. But I think he has a big difference.
You come from this world of exposure, of living in different, far apart continents. And you say that you're a workaholic. What if life ends tomorrow? What happens to the experiences that you want to live for? And I know you accuse of someone, and you're someone who looks for more experiences.
When you say life ends, if you can...
Like we die.
I think, yes, I spoke about that. And so one thing is important, that it's always... we should always remember every day that, this is just temporary, right? Our own life is temporary. Because I think we keep behaving as if it's permanent, but it's I think very deeply influenced by certain parts of Bhagavad Gita, which actually very clearly tells, right, your life is temporary. Yeah, right, nothing is permanent. I think Bhagavad Gita says even your body is not yours. That's temporary. And I think that's very important to kind of remember. And I think at a certain stage, I also follow nihilism, which kind of says life is somewhere, life is actually meaningless. So it's a little strange, even though there's nihilism, but sometimes I try to fight it but sometimes it's very hard to figure out the purpose. So what I really do is I'm like, let's not worry about all of that. I think the best way to get out of it is to be workaholic, to kind of focus on building something nice and creative. Uska ultimate purpose kya hai, matlab kya hai, I don't know. But I'm like, let's just, I'm here in this world, let us have fun, let's build things. I think building and creating is really nice. So I think I just focus on that. I live by the day. While I think I'm always aware that things can always change. To what is beyond that, etc., I think it's very hard to think, I think I kind of overthinking, to be very honest. I think I don't want to get into nihilism and deep things. I would rather be every day doing something that makes a difference. What if the whole world is destroyed by a nuclear attack, right? All of that can happen. Then whatever you're doing is useless. But I'm like, that's not my problem to worry about. Yeah, every day, let's have fun. Let's get up. Let's do something interesting, creative. I think creating meaningfulness, are doing something meaningful that matters to people, etc. I think what's important is to know what drives you, what really makes you happy, and just keep doing it.
This or that, build fast or build to last?
Build to last.
Solo founder versus co-founder.
I think if things have to become bigger, co-founding is the sense.
Pitch deck versus product demo.
See, if it is pure product, product demo makes sense. But if it is the business, business goes beyond product. Pitch deck, can give larger perspective.
Real estate versus SaaS.
I love real estate.
Market timing versus team strength.
T-shirt.
VC money versus bootstrap life.
It's tough. I think bootstrap, if you're in a business that can really bring in revenue, bootstrap makes a lot of sense, but you need to bring external money at the right time if you want to build something.
Tech hub versus culture hub.
I mean, depends on the purpose, right? I mean, India has so many cultures. Probably there are 100 different cities in India, culture hubs. But if you're doing something startup here, which has tech, you're really a tech hub.
Last couple of questions and thoughts. What keeps you up at night? A scary thought, a wisdom nugget, or...
See, risk, I think I do think a lot about risk management, and I think the near-death experience of some companies, etc., we have had. And so a lot of times I do keep thinking that is there something I missed, something I'm not taught? Is there a scenario that can derail us, right? Right, like what happened with Trump tariff, right? Suddenly there's an uncertainty. Now you're caught, suddenly you're taking a lot of risks, and sometimes what happens, when you're taking a lot of risks, something in the market, something out of control went out of hand. A lot of people go bust, right? When pandemic happened, so many restaurants, so many things shut up, right? Not everybody could survive for it. So I always keep thinking, is that because my intention is to build something that lasts, right? Something that lasts has to go through so many years without dying, right? Because once you die, you die. So I think I kind of found out thinking, is there have I covered everything? Is there something I did think? I think that's the I think that day when I think the Trump tariff. I think I remember I woke up because I get up early to for my run. I woke up and I saw that. First thing I saw was the Trump news, and I was suddenly, wow, man, this is so what I was thinking is, what is my exposure? Have I exposed so much that things can go out of hand, That's what I kind of think more. I want to last long.
One inspiring thought that you would leave for an early stage entrepreneur.
I think if somebody has to become a first-time entrepreneur, they have to really have strong conviction. I think a lot of times people become entrepreneur because it is sexy. I think that's not going to last very long. They should somewhere know in their heart that this is what they want to do, and they should know it is going to be tough, and they have to be committed, and ideally a long-term focus. Many times I've seen people are thinking, we'll start something, 2-3 something, much paisa ban jayega. But you have the ability to stay long, stay put, right? Either 2-3 समय पैसा बन जाएगा. A lot of these things, maybe you go on to some funded startup at maybe a little more senior level than what you can be in a large corporate. They can try a lot of these things, but being a full-time entrepreneur, I think glamour is what is seen, but it's a lot tougher. And one has to be committed, one has to be purpose-driven, one should know how to live with less money as well, right? I think that's where the tenacity comes, and they should be strong. And I think there'll be a lot of things they don't know. They should be willing to learn. It's so many mistakes they learn in reading people, reading investor, be it co-founder, be it right customer or partner or vendor. Everywhere people reading. A lot of these things they have to do it a little carefully. They should know that, hey, you know what? How you learn to ride bicycle, right? They should carefully do it. That I'm going to learn things, right? Before you really cycle fast, you should really learn a lot of things. I think they have to be careful and be prepared for the long journey. if you're really mentally prepared for the long journey, I think opportunity, and then you're kind of betting on, like, say, like I said, no, India has it tied, right? You're betting on the right place. You have the right, you're ready for the right long journey. Opportunities will come, and they can always take the priority.
This is one of those moments, you have the cup of your heart is full, because there was so much to learn from this conversation. And I'm so glad I've known you for so many years, but this was a fantastic conversation of learning. As a new entrepreneur, I also learned so much today. And I hope, folks who are watching our conversation also get to learn and feel inspired for their journeys.
I think, of course, I think it's been, like I said, we've known each other, had a lot of conversations. I think very interesting to have a formal conversation as a podcast. I think you've been a lovely podcast host. I think wishing you a great success for the podcast, and I think you're also well placed where through your years, while you call yourself new entrepreneur, I think you've always been in and around entrepreneurs and held a lot of key positions in various startups. I think you are well connected to really good people, and I think bringing their stories out, I think in a way, I mean, see, one is, it could be you're on GTM, but I think you're also doing something that's a larger purpose, right? I think that adds a lot of value to people, right? To learn from each other. I always love to learn from each other, listen to podcasts, listen to perspectives of people. I actually read books, biographies, etc. I think this kind of falls within that structure. I think this is something really good that you're doing, and wish you a great success to the podcast series and other things you're doing.
Thank you. Absolutely grateful to you and your beautiful team here.
Thanks.
Thank you.